Right.
When you got 39th place, there's, what are we at now? How many people? 7.2 billion people in the world or something. There was one person thinking about you getting 39th place, and it was you. Not one other person was thinking about that. Not one.
Yeah.
And it was just you. And you were being consumed by the population of planet Zukron, population you. Like there's like literally like you, there nobody gives a crap except for you.
Welcome back to the show. There's no telling where we'll go. So come and share a laugh on the Imp and Skizz podcast.
So today we're going to talk about something that actually has the potential to be, I don't want to say dark or whatever, but sort of have kind of a little bit of negativity to it. At the same time, the opposite, have some light and like brightness to it. And so let's just get right into it because this was your idea. And what I would like to do is talk about the fact that we are diving into something we mentioned many podcasts ago.
Yeah, just a one-liner in an early podcast. And then we figured, you know what if we dive in? What if we expand on that a little bit more? Yeah. And then I want to actually share some of my like experiences with it because, like you said, it can become a bit dark. We try to keep these podcasts as light as possible.
Yeah.
Because we want to be uplifting. We don't want people to walk away feeling bad, of course.
But I don't care about people. I just like to feel good.
Yeah. But this is one that I think that even talking about something that can be a negative thing, as long as we can like help each other through it, there is a positive outcome, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's it.
This is episode. What is it? Episode 54.
Yeah,
that's right. Evan and Caitlin was 53.
Yeah. Hot Ones was our 52. That was the year Evan and Caitlin last week, which is an amazing podcast interview with them.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't heard it, seen it, definitely check that out. But yeah, it's
we're on 54 now. That's amazing.
54.
So we're talking about the thief of joy.
Yeah, it was a quote by Theodore Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, which every time I think of Teddy Roosevelt, I picture Robin Williams from the movie The Night at the Museum.
Good. Yeah.
R.I.P. But yeah, so he said, comparison is the thief of joy. And I actually think it was Mumbo that I first heard that quote from. I think he was maybe making a video and he was talking about some of his struggles with, as a creator, we tend to compare ourselves to other creators. And at times it can be, depending on who you're comparing yourself to, it can be really like daunting on you to be like, look at somebody that you feel like you're like in a peer group with or you're comparable with, and then be like, but they're doing something better than me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously they're doing something better than me because their numbers are showing this, right? And you start to wonder, well, okay, if they're doing something better than me, then that means I'm not doing something correct. I'm wrong. I'm doing something wrong. What do I need to fix? And you just go down this like negative spiral, as you start to think about it. And it's hard to get out of. And it's one that like we talked about it and we said, comparison's the thief of joy. Don't do that. It was great advice. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Here I am, almost a year later, and I'm still catching myself, and you're still calling me out as I do it continually, and I just can't stop. And so that's why I thought we should talk about it, because I got a feeling I'm not alone in that. And it's not just in the creator space.
Exactly.
Right?
That's where I was going to go with that, is that this is the original phrase, if you will, is the grass is greener on the other side, right? This is something that humans have been aware of for a long time. I don't think, like, comparison, while it is sort of the thief of joy, there's a lot of merit in learning from others. There's nothing wrong with watching what somebody else is doing and liking what you're seeing and getting some lessons from that. I think that's good. I think that's wise, to be honest. But you have to sort of do it in this balanced fashion where you can't lose sight of the things that you have, because what ends up happening when you do that and you fixate on these things that who you're watching has that you don't have, you end up becoming completely blind to the things that you do have. And that's very, very, very bad. And everybody loses in that scenario. And like, this is not to mention, things aren't always what they seem. Like, that's one of the things to think about as well. I would obviously not in a million years say names, but my wife and I knew a couple who was always vacationing, like very, very wealthy, always vacationing. And there's reason there to look at that scenario and be like, how come like we don't have that type of bandwidth and that level of money? I mean, we both work very, very hard. We're very competent. And then it got to a point where it's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to play in that ground. But then I learned over time, the vacations were a distraction to the fact that their marriage was a mess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was to the point to where, I'm just going to say very, very bad. And I'm not going to talk about it, but it was very, very bad. And I remember thinking, wow, they probably look at us and they're very envious. And I don't want people to be envious, but I realized not only is the grass always greener on the other side, but think of that sentence. As soon as you hop on the other side, there's something about the side you just came from where the grass is greener.
Yeah.
You know, so to that end, it is really best. I mean, yes, study those who you admire, but be keen on it.
It's tough not to cross that line between studying and becoming envious.
Yes.
Right. And envy is where it starts to get dark, right? Because that's where you start to desire something somebody else has, and then you feel lesser because of that.
Yep.
Right. Where, you know, and a lot of it starts for me as that research. It's like, you know, I want to see why a fellow YouTuber like just gained, you know, 100,000 subs overnight. What did they do? And I'll go and I'll look, and then I'll be like, oh, I feel like that's something I should be doing, you know, like why, or I am doing, and I didn't get 100,000 subscribers when I did the exact same thing. You start to do that comparison thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I suck at being a content creator, and they're more likable, you know, or they're just more charismatic or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you start to get in that negative headspace and start self-doubting, start putting yourself down and all those kind of things. And then it's like it's a snowball, like, because then when you go to make your next video, you have all this doubt in your head that you're even good at what you're doing. And it comes out. It comes out in what you're doing. And so that's why I wanted to talk about this, because I feel like if you and I chat a little bit, we can unlock something and kind of figure out how to get out of that snowball, that downward spiral. And then if we can figure that out, if we at least have some kind of nuggets of advice, then this becomes certainly a positive topic to talk about, right?
Yeah. Let's start with this morning. So I come over, this is your guest house, and this is where you have your studio. And we've talked about this place many times, and it's beautiful and it's peaceful and all that. And I come over this morning, and you were off getting a haircut or something. And
what do you think?
I think it looks
Wife did a great job, man.
It looks good. Yeah. Actually, look this way for a second.
Did she miss a hair?
No. She can do that too.
About that. There's like a light coming through a door behind me, and it's just like blasting the side of my face. So I just like, that's all everybody can see is the freshly shaved sides of my head now.
So does she do like the comb and then do the razor over the comb?
Yeah. She gets the little the clippers out, and she has the little comb, and she sprayed me with so much water. I felt like I just took a shower. It was just drenched down, like running down my face the entire time.
When she's upset at you, she give you a little extra spray the eyeballs and stuff. Anyways, so I come over, and this is a work day for me. So we've been through this before. Usually we record this podcast on the weekend. Again, something else has come up, and so now I've got to do this in the middle of the week, which means I'm juggling this. And so I step away from work for an hour. We record, and I go back to work, all that stuff. So this is one of those days. So I'm like, listen, I'm going to be over really early in the morning. I'm actually going to take my first meetings from your studio while you're setting up or while you're getting your haircut or whatever. So I come over. You're not in here. I'm almost never in this building without you in it. Right. You know what I mean? And so I was in here, and the first meeting was very short. And something happened where it got cut really short. So it gave me some time back, and that was good. So I started to set up a little bit, and I started to have this like calmness, weirdness wash over me. So I just stopped, and I took a step back into your kitchen, and I just was like, Dave Matthews was playing on Alexa, and I'm just in this world where I was like, this is overwhelmingly peaceful. Like I literally felt like I was on a cruise when I was in here, and it is because I have a very different scenario. You know what I mean? Where I do my work, whether it's my actual work or whether it's the content creation stuff, there's a whole lot of chaos. There's a lot of animals, and that's, I love all of them, but it's just not the same level of peace and calmness. It's just not there right now. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this environment. I'm looking at how like clean it is. There's not dog hair everywhere. There's not chewed up toys. Your couch has the stuffing on the inside. I don't know. That's weird. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, this is the old me, because I want to be very clear here. When I talk about the fact that thief of comparison affects you more than it does others, and more than it affects me, that's because I know what it is. And I once was that way. And I'm not suggesting I'm not that way at all. What I am suggesting is that I've made a very deliberate turn, and I'm going to tell you how. So I made a very deliberate turn. The old me would have looked at this situation and said, what the hell is going on? You know what I mean? How can I be this old, work this hard, have accomplished as much as I have, and having something like this is such a far stretch for me. This is horse shit. Like this is what this is what would have happened in the old me, and it would have consumed me. And then I would have made all these excuses on how this happened upon you and all this. And dude, I surrendered that a long time ago. And instead, I just looked around and I was like, yeah, I can have this. I will have this. But what I want to do is, what is it about this that I like? And what do I need? What do I not need? Like, let's learn.
Yeah.
So it's kind of not fair to you. You know what I mean? Because there's probably, after you've gone through all of this and made this world for yourself, I'm willing to bet you would pay almost anything to go over and go back and start over because of all the things you've learned. I get to learn them for free. You know what I mean? So I win, you loser.
Yeah. I mean, I was not in as bad of a situation like with my last studio as you have like in your house, as far as like having all the distractions and dogs tearing the place up and stuff like that. But I was like in a little tiny closet, remember? And I was feeling a little bit claustrophobic in there. And then because it was like in the center of the house, that meant that like anytime my wife or a kid walked past my door, they were like, hey, what you doing? And I'm like,
you did it for years.
Trying to make videos. All good. You're on camera. Say hi. No. So it was obviously, great to be able to do this and get out here. But at the same time, now I've been in here a year and I still haven't made the studio tour video. It's been just about a year.
We started the podcast as soon as it was.
Well, exactly. So it's been a year. Wow. And here I am kind of like losing sight of all that, right? Like that's the problem is like once you're in that space, it becomes normalized, right? Mm-hmm. And you just are just like, okay, yeah, this is it. And then, what's next? And because that's how I always have been. And so you just kind of like forget what you have. Like you said, when you start to do the comparison, sometimes you can like lose sight of what you have. And then because you're looking to see what other people have. And so, yeah, it's a good reminder to just like have that thought process. Like, oh yeah, this is really cool. Sometimes it takes a reminder. Like, man, you were in here and it was quiet. And that's something I absolutely take for granted. Yeah. Just quiet. Like that's all you need.
Well, that's what's interesting is that quiet at my house is actually unsettling. And because then I'm like, what's going on down there? You know what I mean? So there's been times like where there's always going to be some noise, or the dogs are always, they're playing, and when they play, they wrestle, and it's super cute. I'm not complaining. I love my animals, but I'll be upstairs and I can hear them downstairs, just like, doing that whole thing all day long. And then all of a sudden there will be this long, peaceful quiet. And I'm upstairs and I'm like, I got to get down there right now. Quiet has become unsettling.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I go downstairs and I would honestly, 90% of the time it's fine. But that 10% of the time I'm like, look what you destroyed. You know what I mean? Because they're destroying something and they got really quiet about it, So, so quiet has. They know they're being bad. Yeah, they're being naughty, but they're great though. All right, so now what steps can you make? Because I feel here's what I want the audience to relate to this topic through you.
Yeah,
and I say that I want to be very clear. It's not like I'd never experienced to have the sensation of having my joy zapped because of something I'm comparing myself to. It does happen, but I've gotten much, much better over the years, substantially better. And you're not getting better. You're arguably getting worse, because what's happening is the more success you're seeing, you're becoming in closer and closer proximity with people who are very successful.
Right.
So now it's given you a whole new platform of people to put into your view and say, now that's the next person who I would like to overcome or be better than or be as good as or whatever. And it's becoming even more brutal because you're arguably comparing yourself now to the even more substantial. So if you are going to make this shift, what is it what can impulse do? What can impulse do to actually start deliberately making this change? Because you're never going to be happy.
Yeah. I think the first step is to understand like when you start to step into that space, that comparison space where you're starting to feel your joy being robbed from you, right? And where you're starting to have those kind of jealousy, envy thoughts, try to catch it early because it does spiral, it does snowball. So like the reason this even came up was because the other day I was going on a little rant about how come so-and-so's doing so great and I'm not, right? And I was, and you're like, you were basically like, why don't you just be happy for him? And I was like, I am, Like, I'm very happy for them. I'm mad that I'm not where they're at. It's different. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I do.
So like I was, yeah. And so that's where it was like, okay, so obviously I'm in a negative space and I shouldn't be, because right now you're kind of giving that to me. You're telling me like, dude, come on, like chill. Like you're good. You know, why are you so upset that you're not better than good? You know what I mean? And so I had to like step back a little bit and be like, oh, you're right. I absolutely still continue to do this to this day. Didn't listen to our advice from episode whatever it was, and you know, so then it was like, okay, cool. Now that I've been kind of called out and I'm able to be more aware, I need to like start to call myself out. You know, I think that's the next step, is to realize when you go from research mode to envy mode.
Yes, there you
and
go.
catch that like right then, like, and then maybe it's also important to have those moments of gratitude, you know, like you mentioned, like you forget that you're doing well yourself or that you're in a good space when you start to get envious of what other people have. Just in that moment when I realize, oh no, I'm doing it again, be like, well, let's see what's good about my life right now, you know, and start thinking about that. You know, it's like, okay, oh man, my first channel is doing horrible. My second one's doing amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Evan and Caitlin talked about this in our podcast last week. They said, you know, oh, we don't dwell too much on, because we asked them, how do you handle the down, you know, when it goes down and stuff, and that's what they said. Well, every time one thing goes down, another one goes up, feels like, so they're always good. And so that's something you can do as a mechanism in your own life, I think, is, okay, so maybe, you know, maybe your kid got sick this week, but they're not going to die. You know what I mean? Like they're going to come out on the other side and they're going to be just fine. Or, you know, maybe your kid's going off to college and that's sad that they're leaving your house, but guess what? They're going to go and become their own person and be successful. And you're going to be so proud as they do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so you got to find like the balance of
You're
things.
correct. And like, let's take that example right there. So it's just a couple of weeks away before I got to go back to New York and move.
3 days for me.
It's 3 days for you.
3 days for me. My kid goes off to college.
Yep. And I got to go move her back to New York. And that's obviously, this is hard on me every year, but there's a certain degree of joy in this one. Is while I've always been proud of her, year one, there was almost no joy for me. And I'm be very forthcoming with you. There was almost no joy in it. It was just like, it was just drove me nuts. I hated it so much to have my little girl so far away. Well, now she's going to be a junior. Like, this is starting to become an old hat, you know, and I'm used to it. And so part of me is like, of course I'm sad. Of course I'm sad. But I'm happy because this pales in comparison to the pain I felt 2 years ago. It was so brutal. You know what I mean? And now it's just like, yeah, this sucks. I hate it when she leaves. I hate it. You know what I mean? But she's just going to do her thing. And I've already seen this movie. We FaceTime a lot and I get her caught up on stuff. She catches me up on stuff. We send her care packages, care packages are, if you have a child going to college, dude, care packages are the best. This is one of our favorite things to do. My wife is great at this, by the way. She gets very familiar with what my daughter's roommate's like. So we send a care package to the whole house. Wow. You know, the dorm, but now it's going to be like a house. And we send a care package, and so we know who likes Oreos. We know who likes, you know, Cheez-Its, and who needs this and who needs that. And it's become this. It's a distraction. I get it, but it's a lovely distraction. And so now I'm like, you know what? This is going to be painful, but it used to be so much worse. And I'm very grateful. You know what I mean? And not to mention that first year was very bad for my daughter. Like, she wasn't sure she wanted to be there. I mean, that's a big change to move across the nation, you know, and she wasn't sure she wanted to be there. And she is such a different person now. I mean, all that pain and discomfort she was strong going in, and now she's bulletproof.
She's thriving.
Yeah. It's crazy.
That's awesome. I mean, but yeah, so what you did in that little story was like, you actually compared yourself to yourself.
I did.
Like,
I did.
You compared your now you
Yeah.
to your you from 2 years ago that was super stressed. I remember you telling me that you wanted to stream more together to get your mind off of it. That's how much it was affecting you.
Yep.
And now I haven't heard you say much about the fact that until now that she's going back, you know. And
which, by the way, I never thanked you for that, because you delivered too. My exact words were, "I'm gonna need you on this," and you were like, "What do you need?" And we did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You distracted me.
You're welcome. I'm glad you got through that.
Yeah, it was good.
I'm not going through as much as the same thing, because my son's just going to be like 30 minutes away at ASU.
Yeah.
And he's coming home like every week. I talked to him last night and he's like, I'm going to come home every Friday night and leave every Sunday night. So I'm going to see him 2 days out of the week.
Yeah.
So I was like, should we send him a care package as a joke, like in the middle of the week? You know,
Put a care package in his room.
When he's going to be home. So
It's still a big change, though.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? You're still going to, I would say you're going to notice how much quieter it is, but
he's already super quiet.
Super quiet. But it doesn't matter. Let me put it this way. You're going to, when you walk by his room and he's not in there,
Yeah,
you're going to feel that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it sucks.
It has been interesting to see too. We're getting way off subject, but it's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
Is a change in him as he started to realize that he was leaving the nest. Suddenly, we were seeing him a lot more. Him coming out and having conversations with us a lot more than he had in like the previous 4 years or whatever. Like once he was in high school, it was like didn't want to talk to us in his room, you know, all the time, playing video games and stuff. But now all of a sudden he's just like out all the time, like wanting to spend every last bit of time he has with us before he kind of goes.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of a fun change. But
So let's talk about, I think that you could be the number one advocate for how bad it can go. I'm not trying to make it into we can find a way to make the badness a funny thing, but how bad it can go if you refuse to turn this dial, right? So it sounds like you want to make a deliberate change. It sounds
absolutely. I mean, because the thief of joy is a real thing. Like it's literally taking away any potential joy I could have doing what I'm doing and being where I'm at, which is got to sound completely asinine from the outside looking in, right? Because as you mentioned, we got this awesome place. I'm doing really well on YouTube and things are great, you know, but I refuse to acknowledge that because I'm only looking up all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where I think the gratitude piece is huge. You know, we've talked about it in the past. And I was like, I need to come in first thing in the morning and sit on the couch and just have a moment of gratitude. Has it happened yet? No, it hasn't. I haven't actually made those changes. You know, I haven't forced myself to do that. I still come in and refresh my dashboard and see if my video from yesterday is 10 out of 10 or 1 out of 10. And based off of that, that's going to set my mood for the entire day. You know,
Yeah.
How's so-and-so's video doing? Oh, they crushed me on views. Oh man. Okay. What are they doing that I'm not doing? And then it starts to happen, you know? So I gotta kind of like change the mindset, get out of that space a little bit. You mentioned that you don't do it as much anymore. Was there something specifically you did to get out of that kind of space where you were doing it?
You know, that's a fair question. It's been, I would say in the beginning, my biggest was in college. And when we were taking the same classes, we were doing the same thing. Why is this coming so much quicker to you than it is to me? Like I remember that is very, very humbling. Like we didn't start sort of around the same time. We started at the same time. And then we were taking our first classes. There was no reason to believe one of us was going to be naturally better at it than the other. When I'm really quite literally specifically talking about programming development, right? And it wasn't like I was like completely incompetent, but I was far from good. And you were instantly close to great. Like it's just, you just got it. Some people just, they have it. Talent is, I know, Estapario, if you're listening to me, I know you say talent is a lie because you're the best drummer on the planet. But it's not. How about this? I've taught enough people, you know what I mean? I've taught drumming to enough people to understand that yes, there is such a thing as talent. Now we've talked about that hard work will always outperform talent that doesn't work hard. We get that. But at the same time, their talent is a real thing. And it was fun to watch you do it, but it was also, it wasn't just humbling on my perspective. From my perspective, it was more like, what's wrong with me? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like what's wrong with me? I'm not even putting in the same hours he is. I'm putting in more, you know what I mean? I want to be good at this. Turns out I actually didn't really want to be good at it, but because I just was like, I guess I don't really care that much about this, but I would like to be able to do it. You know what I mean? And so it kind of consumed me a little bit, right? So it consumed me to the point to where, and I'm going to tell you this, it still is this is the detrimental part of the joy comparisons to Thief of Joy. Here's the detrimental part. That was decades ago. And I still feel it today. I work in a place that's high tech. We know this. And I got this job. And when I interviewed for this job, the first thing I told them is I said, I'm not a developer and I'm not technical. And their response was, yeah, but we know who you are. because of the things I'm able to do. And that's when I was like, why am I ignoring what my actual strengths are? My strengths are to lead people. My strengths are presentation. My strengths are planning. These are the things that I have to think about. These are the things that the people who I envy are like, how do you do that? You know what I mean? And I don't know how to answer it, but I ignored it for so long because I was so fixated on the things that I can't do.
Yeah.
And that is. And here I am still to this day. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world that to this day, I'm in meetings and I know what the people think about me, but then up here, I'm like, no, but the smart ones, they know I'm a joke. And I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's because you end up wearing it like this awful badge that you can't quite get off. So you have to be deliberate about recognizing what you're good at and where you belong or whatever. And just be at peace with the fact that, the world's not a fair place. It's just not. Is it fair that you're just naturally better at it than I am? No, it's not fair. And that's okay.
Yeah. Once you're willing to accept that natural talent is a thing, I think that can actually make it easier to accept things like you mentioned, what's his name?
Estapario. Cibriano. I always mess up his last name.
Are you saying it correctly?
Estapario. Okay. I know that's it. This is, if you haven't seen it.
I'm sure if you've been on YouTube or TikTok, you've seen this drummer.
This is the drummer with the amazing beard. Now, I'm going to say something. We're going to, are you ready? Here we go. You want to talk about thief is the comparison of joy? Oh, my God. Here it is. Estapario. There's no way you're watching, but if you are, you got me to break the cardinal rule of what it is to be a drummer. And I'm no schlub drummer, right? Neither are you. We have a very extensive history in drumming. I've done orchestral, I've done jazz, had my own rock band for a while. I was a marching drummer. Both of us, we understand it. We get it. Okay. And there's one rule is people always ask me all these years, who's the best drummer? And I said, there's no such thing. That's what I say. There's no such thing because there's so many different genres and so many different strengths.
Right. Can't compare.
You are the best drummer in the world. And I'm saying that was hard for me to say. And I said it to some of my people that you know who are like just
they
our
know
kings.
what's up. Yeah,
they know what's up, and they didn't argue. They know who he is, and they're just like, the guy makes no sense. So it's also very evident if you watch all of his videos, very evident that his work ethic is second to none.
Yeah, he's at the perfect marriage of talent and work ethic.
Like, yes, they're both the highest they can be. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So the reason I brought him up is because I watch his videos as well, and I sit there in awe, and I'm a drummer as well. And so you would think, okay, comparison's the thief of joy. Here we go. I'm gonna look at him and be like, why can't I be that good? I don't do that with him. I don't do that with that. So there's obviously something different there.
I can explain what that is.
Okay.
I can explain what that is. You ready?
Yeah.
Are you jealous of pole vaulters?
No.
Because you're
but
never.
But I didn't do pole vaulting.
You did.
In high school,
I know you.
know?
I know. I understand that. I understand that. What I'm saying is what they do is so ridiculous. It's like, I'm not even gonna, it's not even on the same page. I still get jealous of some of my closest friends who are drummers. You know, I'm not jealous, but it's like, oh, I can get there if I work a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Estapario is on a level that is like, he's on another planet. He's so good. And I'm comparing him to my favorites, Dennis Chambers, Dave Weckl, Carter Beauford. These are icons of the drumming world. And I'm like, they're amazing. You ever really, really sit back and listen or watch Dave Weckl? It is mesmerizing, mesmerizing. And then Estapario does his thing. I'm like, yeah. You know what I mean? I see Dave Weckl, and there's part of me is like, if I worked hard enough, I could get there. And he is one of the best ever. Estapario does his thing, and I'm like, I think I could work 9 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours a day for the next 150 years, and I'm not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, maybe that's the thing is your brain kind of realizes that just no.
It's disconnected.
Don't waste your time because that ain't happening.
Yeah.
And then okay, let's apply that to like the content creator space, right? Let's look at the content creators that I'm comparing myself to, and I'm like, man, they're pulling they're doing all this great stuff, and they're pulling all these great numbers and stuff. What am I doing that they're not, and or what are they doing that I'm not? And I'm like, and that's when I get depressed. And so if I sat back and said, well, are they actually in another league? You know, like that's where some of the negative thoughts come in, right? Like. Not accepting the fact that maybe they're just in another league. Like maybe they're just actually more talented and smarter than I am and things like that. And that's where it's like hard to disassociate what you were just talking about. Like obviously he's in another league and that's just not going to happen. But I still feel like all these people I'm comparing myself to, it's like, I know that they have something I don't have, but I'm not willing to accept it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm still maybe lying to myself and thinking that I can teach myself to be more charismatic, more funny, to be smart enough to build something like Decked Out. You know, like Tango's
there you go,
you know
dude.
what I mean?
Great comparison.
Yeah. So it's like I feel like I could, but that might be a lie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I understand. That's funny. Yeah, when it's almost like when what you're observing it feels in reach, no matter how far that reach is, then you're susceptible to having any successes you have be robbed by your comparison with what you genuinely feel might be at reach.
Right.
Estebario, it's not a reach. So I love it. I enjoy it. I just get to watch him and enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Here, I wanted to listen. I want people just do that. Just do this for me, people. Do this. Go to YouTube. If you don't know who I'm talking about, go to YouTube. Specifically, there's one specific thing. It's all amazing. Go watch Take On Me drum cover, and you're going to see him. He's going to be hitting both cymbals, and he's like leaning into the picture. That's the thumbnail. It's the song Take On Me, and enjoy the whole thing. But really, it's that drum break. To this day, that drum break is the sickest thing in the world.
I'm curious to see how non-drummers respond to his videos.
See, there you go.
Like, is his videos only cool to drummers, or is it cool to everyone?
I agree, dude. I think people who don't drum can watch him and they're like, this guy's amazing. And then drummers are like, this guy's a god. You know what I mean? Like there's like, you have to understand it and to understand. Think of this. There's a lot of people who are not drummers. They're not even listening to his feet. Like they don't even hear his feet. Yeah. You know what I mean? What his feet are doing are like ridiculous. They're only looking at the hands and stuff, which is why one thing I do wish you would do, Estebario. I've really convinced myself he's watching us. One thing I do wish he would do is I know
this isn't a podcast. This is just a video made for him.
I do wish he would put more cameras on his feet because I feel like he's not doing them justice. He's doing them justice to drummers.
He's not going to give that away for free.
What do you mean?
Feet pick? Like you can make good money on the internet with feet pics. You think he's going to give that away for free?
Yeah, bro, that's women's feet, bro. But I was like, where you go with this? I only say that because the drummers don't need that camera, but I feel like the people who are not drummers watching this video, I feel like they would benefit greatly from that camera when the camera on the feet, you know. Anyways, let's digress here. Oh, go watch the video, everybody.
Did you just say let's digress? Because that already happened.
Yeah, we digress. We digress.
Let's turn the ship back around.
Let's move on back to the future. So this is what I want to do. This. Watch that video and somebody go start that. Go watch it and start the thread. I'm here because Imp And Skizz sent me.
Oh.
Now listen.
Oh my God.
And before you do that, look for that comment first. And if you see it, don't add it, just like it. I want to get Estebario's attention. I want him to know how amazing he is.
No, actually, I think if they like it and reply to that
fair enough. Yeah, like and
so that
reply.
It's just like this big me too.
Yeah.
That would be great.
That would be great. And now for the record, I don't know if you've seen his video where he basically talks about his life. He isn't drumming it. Yeah. He just talks about what made him what he is. This has not been an easy road for that guy.
Right.
Like it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
We've gone full blown obsessed.
Oh, I know.
Okay. What were we
Anyways,
talking about?
back to it. I'm not comparing myself to him. I'm
the worst drummer ever.
Bro, I took a lesson. You ready? You ready? Going back to when I went to a music camp when I was younger. And this was that one I was a counselor at, but there was a college player and I think we've talked about him. Frank Rosali was his name over at NAU. And this is in my personal, like, shook your hand and drum with you type thing. This guy's the best drum set player I've ever shaken the hand of ever. And it's a wide margin. Second place is a wide margin. And he was renowned. He was world renowned. He really was. He was second place nationwide for the collegiate division, which we've discussed in the past that's your best musicians in the world. So I asked him for a drum lesson. We may have even talked about this story on the podcast before. I asked him for a drum lesson and he had seen me drum before and he was really, really complimenting of the speed of my hands, but that's a marching thing. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, man. And so he picked me up. I went to his house and we were bass drum to bass drum and it was the best / worst hour of my life because dude, he was as nice as the day is long. He really was. But I was like, this guy's got to be thinking, why is this scrub asking me for a lesson? He never ever gave me reason to think that. It was all me. There is thief is the comparison of joy. And then there is the most extreme version where a thief is the comparison of joy. Comparison's the thief of joy. And then there's the extreme version where comparison will shut you down. And in that moment, I remember thinking, I'm going to get through this lesson and then I quit because he was being so helpful and so wonderful. And he was too good. He was too good. And it was just, he was so natural and so unbelievable that I'm like, dude, I've been playing drum set a long time. I've been drumming a long time. I can't even hang with you for a second. Like it was awful and it shut me down. And that was the dark version of it because he was somebody I aspired to be. It took one lesson for me to realize I'll never be there. You know, it was hard. It was very, very hard. And it didn't detach me because I was still wanted it so bad. He's right there in front of me. I can touch him. I can shake his hand. He's right here. He's teaching me. He's teaching nobody but me. And I'm still like, I hate everything.
Yeah. It like triggered an imposter syndrome.
Yeah, absolutely.
You.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what I was getting at before when I was like, I'm looking at these other creators around me and going like, oh, I maybe I'm not good. Maybe that's why they're doing so much better than me. Maybe I don't belong here. You know, that's what that is. It's just triggering that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's important to also spin that around, right? We've been talking about how to get out of it, right? I think another thing that can be a positive about comparison, if we're going to find anything, is if you can find the right motivation in it to not get imposter syndrome, not go to the negative side of it, but to be like, I see that they're better than me. I see what they're doing. And now I'm going to figure it out. Yeah. Like like you use it as fuel to your fire, use it as motivation. So I had that in like MCC, right? Seeing all these competitors around me that, you know, are essentially my peers and just watching them and they're just like so good.
Yeah.
You know, look at Martin, right?
Oh,
We've
dude.
seen what Martin can do.
Yeah.
And you know, and he holds his own in MCC and I'm like, okay, if he can do it, I can do it. But there's something different there. Like what's different? Oh, I think he's put in the time. I think he's put in the practice. Okay. Well, if it's not a talent issue, then it's a skill issue. Right. Mm-hmm. So skill issues can be solved with work. And so I was like, screw it. I'm going to put in the work because I came in 39th place in an MCC a few events ago. And
out of how many?
Out of 40 people. Yep. So
I want context
second to last. Yeah. Right. In the entire event. And I was absolutely embarrassed. Like, you know me, I can't handle that. I can't handle sucking at stuff. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I was absolutely embarrassed. And I thought, okay, well, what can I do from here? I'm going to use it as motivation. I'm going to get better every single event, you know? And if I have a slippage, you know, whatever, it happens. But I'm going to improve at least, whether the numbers show it or not. And the only way to do that is I'm going to put in the work. And I started putting in the work, like to the point to where one week I put in too much work and MCC came and I was exhausted by the time it started. And I did okay. I still did better. I got 32nd place that time, but I was so boring to watch and had zero fun that event. Mm-hmm. And so this last one, I'm like, okay, I'm going to put in the work, but I'm going to spread it out so I'm not exhausted. And I'm going to approach it with a different mindset. I'm going to focus less on like how things end up, you know, and like, cause that's the thing is like, as it's going on, if I'm worried about how well I am compared to somebody else in the standings, then I start to sweat it and get nervous. And like suddenly the pressure gets to me. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have fun. I'm going to come in here and have fun and try to make people laugh and be entertained and all that stuff. And whatever happens, happens. And I'm getting 23rd place, which is something that never crossed my mind that I would ever go get that high. I mean, we're talking like these people are really good.
Yeah.
Like some of these people, this is what they do, right? Is like PvP, parkour, movement, and Minecraft, speed running the game, all that kind of stuff. That's not me. I'm a 40-year-old redstoner. You know what I mean? Like so this is
throw the H in there. It's like no relevance.
By the way, I am the oldest person to ever win MCC, but
hey.
But anyway, so I kind of like chilled out a little bit and relaxed and started to realize I'm not going to compare myself to others. I'm going to just compare myself to my past me, like last time I was in MCC, I missed all these jumps on this course. This time I'm going to try to hit the jumps, and I hit the jumps. I didn't stress about it, and I had fun. And I was like, oh, there it is. You know what I mean? Like that, there it is. That's what it is. It's not, oh man, I'm never going to be as good as Illumina or all these guys that get like top 10 every time. I realized just let that go, because people aren't there to watch me get sweaty. They're there to watch me have fun, and they want to have fun. And if I improve, that's also something to kind of hype on, and that's all they're looking for. Yeah. So just approaching it with a different mindset, like completely made the event so much more fun. And then to see the outcome actually be what it was, like that was just like icing on the cake at that point, because I had fun no matter what.
The message there is sort of you put in the work. It wasn't like you got 23rd place because you were just there to have fun. You put in the work, and then you partnered it with a relaxed energy, and that's like the perfect marriage.
Right.
You know what I mean? You already cut the synapses all lined up and ready to fire, and then you were able to breathe and execute. Right. Where there's such a thing as over, like you work so much, it actually, the first one was not fun for you, but we've had, they kind of call it the yips, I think, or whatever if it's called, but I've had times in the past where I worked so hard at something that when it was showtime, I lost a fundamental skill.
Yeah.
It was gone. I put so much pressure on myself. It was gone. So I think there's some value in that. Like put in the work, identify what needs to be done, put in the work. And then you know what? Just relax, man. If I got 39th place, I'd be like, I didn't get last.
I was talking to Joel, and I don't know if he'll appreciate me sharing this, but Joel in the event, he had a rough thing happen. Like he had a race that wasn't going his way, and he was getting tilted by it. Like
that'll happen.
He got so tilted he shut off his webcam.
Oh,
and so we talked about it a little bit afterwards, because him and I had a different experience that day, because he didn't do as well as he was hoping for, but he's also very competitive like me. And he says, I'm just a competitive person, and it comes from my background and playing some other games back in the day. I forget, like CSGO or something. I don't know, shooter games that he was like competitive in. And he's like, sometimes it comes out when we do MCC, and he's like, and I get really upset in the moment, and then I wake up the next day and I realize how stupid that is. Because at the end of the day, it was just a silly Minecraft event.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It was just a silly little Minecraft competition that nobody's gonna remember or care about years from now. Like what is he getting so worked up about? And I was like, exactly, man. Like that's what happened to me. I got so worked up about that 39th place and so embarrassed that it did fuel me, which is a good thing, but it was too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was too much to put on myself, and then I was getting in a negative space. Like, man, maybe I don't belong here. Maybe I suck at Minecraft, And he was like, it was great. It was a great conversation him and I had, because it's just like that realization after the fact. And it's always the case. Like in the moment you get caught up and sometimes do things, say things or whatever, and you get heated. And then you have a second to like relax, sleep on it, breathe. And you're like, oh man, actually I way overreacted. That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's something you can learn and take into the next one. But
it's called, so there's, it's actually in all sports you have to have a short memory, right? We've talked about this before. This is the Ted Lasso, be a goldfish. You got to have a short memory. You got to learn. It's okay to learn, but when it comes down to things not quite going your way in those moments, you got to have a very short memory. It's the only way that you can function after that. Poker is one of them, man. It really is. There's times where it used to be that when I would go to tournaments or I'd go to cash games or whatever, and if I went to a tournament and I didn't win, or I didn't get like top 3 or something, it would eat at me. It would eat at me because I really, really like poker. I put a lot of dedication in studying and investigation into that craft. I like it very, very much. I'd go to a tournament and I don't win, and I would just be so upset. And then I changed it. I'm like, here's what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to reflect on my gameplay, and where I made mistakes, that's what I'm going to fixate on. I'm not the results. I'm not going to worry too much about. I'm just going to reflect on my gameplay. So I went in and I started to, and when the night was over, I would retroactively think of all the hands I was in, and I would talk about, did I get my max value on that one, or should I have gotten away from that one? Did I overbet this, or whatever, right? Poker is not what people think. the psychology of it runs very, very deep. When you're playing a hand against somebody, you're playing the last 100 hands you've had with that person. You understand when you have position on somebody. You understand these things, right? You understand how much of a kamikaze are they in this moment based on their chip stack. Like you get all that, right? You have to understand implied odds. There's so much. The night would finish, I would do all this reflection, and I'm like, I got 6th place. And then maybe let's say there was like 20 people, right? I need to do better than 6th place. I got 6th place, but you know what? I played perfectly. I'm like, I can't find one hand that I could have played better. And I know I could be wrong, but based on my assessment, believe me, I'm very honest with myself on what I could have done better. Based on my assessment, I played perfectly. And sometimes the cards just don't go your way. Like that is actually, that's the other problem with poker, is that you can quite literally do make the perfect decision at exactly the wrong time. Yeah. And that sucks. And to see somebody who can constantly make the wrong decision at the right time is maddening. Yeah. But you got to let go of that stuff. And you have to have a short memory. So when you take a bad beat, you're in a hand, you take a bad, more really you take a cooler. Like it was just like you had no say. You had no say on how this is going to go. Like you flop a set and somebody flopped a higher set. That is something that next to never happens, right? And the pros and the people who play a lot, they understand if somebody flopped a set over your set, you got to let it go. You have to not let the cards go. You have to admit the fact that, hey, if you're running that bad, that's just the way the cards fall sometimes. Mm-hmm. When that happens and you lose a big pot or whatever, just chalk it up for what it is. That was just a poker hand. I played right, short memory. What's next? And that's applicable to all things in life. It's applicable to all sports. It's applicable to work. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's one of the reasons, like where I work, as a culture, it's hard for the culture to do that, to the point to where when someone goes south, they got to know whose fault it was. I mean, nobody cares. Let's fix it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Let's just move forward. So if you can get yourself into an area where you can deliberately have a short memory on that stuff, then what Joel's talking about will happen a lot sooner for him. He won't have to wake up the next day to have a clear mind and see that and have that epiphany, and have that level of clarity to where he was like, I'm not going to freak out about this. Right. When you got 39th place, what are we at now? How many people? 7.2 billion people in the world or something. There was one person thinking about you getting 39th place, and it was you. Not one other person was thinking about that. Not one. Yeah. And it was just you. And you were being consumed by the population of planet Zukron, population you. Like there's like literally there's nobody gives a crap except for you.
Yeah, that's because that's how I've always kind of ran. Like we talked about how competitive I am, and I'm that I push myself to always be better. Yeah. And so when I fall short of what I think my goal is, or what I think I can do, it's punishing. It's mentally punishing. Yeah. But I mean, you're right. Like I really hope, like in Joel's case, like going into the next MCC, like I hope he doesn't even think about it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yep. Because I did. Like going into the next one, after I got 39th place, I obsessed about it, and I was like, I must do better, to the point that it was like painful. It was like I was like almost in pain by the time the event came around. Like to the point that, you know me, I read too much Reddit and stuff, but to the point that there was like a Reddit post after the event that was like, what was wrong with Impulse today? And they weren't talking about my skill. Sure. Because I had improved in that one from 39th to 32nd. They weren't talking about my skill. They were talking about like, what is wrong with him? He looks bad. Like he looks tired. He was boring to watch. He didn't hardly say a word, all this stuff. And I was like, I overdid it. Like I pushed myself too hard, and I couldn't even, at that point I was like, I don't even enjoy the fact that I moved up 7 spots. Like, great. I did it at what cost, you know? Yeah. I sacrificed what the real goal was, and that was to have fun. Yeah. You know? So yeah, it's crazy to like have stuff like that happen and then think about it in retrospect, but it's good to also think about it in retrospect, because that's where you learn. Yeah. You know? So
next time you do MCC, you're going to get, hold on, let me do the math here. What did you just get? 23rd?
23rd.
You're going to get 12th place next time.
No, I'm not.
I mean, I'm just saying. If you went 9, up 9, then 11.
Here's the thing.
Wait, no. Wait, what did I say? 12th? You're getting 10th.
My goal is not to get that good. My goal is not that way. Those people in the top 10, like they are like Estepario. What's his name?
Estepario.
They're on a different level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I am feeling accomplished now. Like
That's
I
good.
feel like I got to where, and I want to get better. I always want to get better, and I think it's going to happen. Like the entire competition, everyone in the competition every time they play are going to get better, right? And so I might land around there, and I'm kind of like, you know what? I came in not knowing how to do any of this stuff, and I practiced, and I got pretty good, and nobody's gonna say he sucks.
Yeah.
You know, and that was my goal. You know, was just to like show if you work for something, you can achieve greatness. And you know, greatness to me wasn't top 10; it was somewhere in there. Like I'm very happy to be in the middle of that pack. Like I'm good.
Yeah.
And now I can just play for fun.
Good.
You know what I mean?
That's really good.
So yeah, I feel like I finally got in a pretty good space with it, and we'll see. Like I might dip down to 39th again. Who cares?
Who cares?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I did care then, and I've learned to just accept it for what it is. And I proved something to myself, and hopefully people got inspired by that. You know.
Yeah.
So I'm good. That's not a spot where today I'm doing a comparison Thief of Joy type of thing. I'm done with that. Like I got past that and I learned from it.
You know, what's funny is you're saying these things and they are actually in my own mind right now, they're opening up a different level of comparison being the Thief of Joy. You can almost evolve this into comparison is the thief of opportunity. And what I mean by that is that I am willing to bet that the answer would be yes. If I asked you, do you think you know of any really accomplished Minecraft players who would say no if asked to do MCC because they don't even want they don't want to be exposed. I don't want to say exposed, but they're like, no, I don't want the world to see how much I would be terrible at that, even though it could be a lot of fun.
It's tough. I mean, Etho played in this last one, and Etho is a god in Minecraft,
yes,
right? He's the one we've all grown up with. We all looked up to.
Yeah.
And so everybody knows like Etho's amazing at everything he does. And so coming into his first MCC, like people were throwing down like such high expectations. And I was like, that's not fair.
That's not fair. Yeah. That's
absolutely not fair to him.
This is not Minecraft.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is not,
Like Etho said it himself. I've never done this style of Minecraft before. It's completely different. And it takes practice to get good at it. And to his credit, and Etho's so humble. Like I look up to him so much, but he's so humble that like he didn't sweat any of that. Like he didn't care. Like you could tell he didn't care that people were like, Etho's gonna get top 10 because he's the best, or you know, Etho's gonna be last because he's new. He's like, I'm just gonna show up and have fun, and whatever happens. Like he really didn't care. And he showed up and he had a good time, and actually he did really well for his first time.
Yeah.
He got like 32nd place, I think, which is outstanding. But that's just because the dude is really, really good at everything he does.
Wow.
So yeah, it worked out. But I'm sure there still were those people that were like, I can't believe Etho didn't get top 10. Like they just don't understand.
Yeah.
But I tried to, like, as people talked about it, I was like, guys, you got to understand, this is a different beast. And like your first time is very overwhelming.
Yeah.
You know, like Ace Race broke my heart because, I'd finally done really well at Ace Race and I was all excited. And then I turn around, I'm like, okay, who hasn't finished? And I look and Etho's the last one. And I was like, oh, and I was like, it feels bad, but like, I get it because it's so different. But at the same time, everybody's just cheering him on and stuff and had a good time.
There's a lot to be admired by the fact that he even gave it a go for somebody that doesn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like, okay, if you're Etho, by now, people are going to put you on a pedestal.
Yep.
Right. He knows that. And somehow he stays humble. And he faced it head on. Like, he's like, it's not going to bother me. I'm not going to listen to the noise. I bet you he didn't even like go to the Reddit to read the post to begin with. And even if he did, it wasn't going to bother him. But he jumped in and took it for what it was. And there's something to be admired and learned from that.
Yeah.
You know, that you can put pressure on yourself to your own detriment.
Yes. And I think I am willing to bet there's pretty big Minecrafters out there who have said no or would say no because they're like, no, I don't want to go into this, me personally, I look at as a very fun environment and a really awesome opportunity. There's probably been Minecrafters out there who have said no because they're like, I don't want the world to see that I can't hang with these people. This is
There's
a
been
very
a few
different
people
Minecraft.
over the past couple events that quit specifically because they were putting pressure on themselves to be at a certain level, like I was, and they weren't getting there. They were kind of dropping off, right? And so they would end the events feeling bad about themselves.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, this event's no longer fun because of that. And they knew what was happening. They knew it was their own pressure they're putting on themselves, and they're just like, I can't. I'm done. It's just getting too competitive and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's been a few. I don't know about people that didn't to begin with.
But it makes me wonder.
But probably.
Yeah. And just in general, I bet you there's been times just in general where people were comparing themselves, their worth, their skill set, whatever they have to offer the world, not Minecraft, whatever it is. And they're offered some sort of opportunity and they turn it down because they've just been comparing themselves so much that they think that they're not going to be up to snuff. And it's all this comes back to imposters. Like it's all intertwined.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That imposter syndrome definitely kicks in when you start to do the comparison. That's how it comes about.
Yeah.
But I think bottom line is there's a couple things. One, when you start to get into that downward spiral, that dark cloud, that feeling the imposter syndrome, and maybe feeling some envy or jealousy for something that somebody else has that you don't, that either one, hopefully you have a friend like I have you who kind of like said, dude, what are you doing? Right? Or you could take some of the other advice we had today and just take a minute to understand, that you're in that space and like step back and then take a moment of gratitude.
Yes.
Find something in your life that you can be grateful for, that you're not going to then compare that to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's super important because that mindset getting out of control has actually like stopped me from like making videos,
Yeah.
because like that day I'm just like, I'm not going to make this video because it's going to suck. And I know it's going to suck and nobody's going to watch it. You start to get, you go down that path. I know, as funny as it sounds, but
It's just the way you did it.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what your head's doing to you because you've now gone down that path of imposter syndrome and feeling sorry for yourself, and you get in a negative headspace. And then I'm like, I'm not going to be able to hit record and not be in that headspace, and that's going to come through in the video. So I'm just not going to hit record today.
Yeah.
And so the fact that has now stopped me from doing my job, it's very important to figure it out.
Yeah. Very important to figure it out. Yep.
So anyway, I think there's some good tips in there.
It is. I honestly, it's the gratitude one is the one I sort of want to say. You had some really good advice. You really, really did. You came back with some gems. And I think the gratitude one, I think recognizing when it shifts into envy, you're basically saying, be very keen on that. Feel it like a palpable change. As soon as it goes from observing and learning into envy, it's like, whoa, pump the brakes.
Yeah.
That's never good.
Right.
Envy's never good. So just pump the brakes for a second and take a moment. And I'll be honest with you. There are times you say a lot of nice things about me, dude, but I'm with my flaws, believe me, in this realm. And there's plenty of times that I lose sight all the time. And when those moments happen, this is no joke, I start to think about the things I'm grateful for. And we don't have enough time for me to talk to you about the things that I'm grateful for and the things I have great fortune for. But what I hear in me, and just me personally, is when I'm feeling comparison robbing me of my joy in those moments, I hear God whisper in my ear, "You're a moron." And then I stop for a second and I'm like, yeah, he's right, man. And I realized I got the most amazing kids. I got the most amazing wife. I have an amazing job. I have amazing friends. I have an amazing opportunity. What am I complaining about? You know what I mean? And then it just, you have to, but it gets away from you.
You kind of like come back to earth in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So do it. Recognize it. That's my number one, is recognize it when it turns. That was your advice, and I dig it. And to the fact where I'm going to take that with me, because recognize the moment you're observing something that it turns into envy, that moment, and pump the brakes.
Yep.
Pump the brakes, recalibrate, and remind yourself what you're grateful for, and it'll clear your mind.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm looking to, try to practice that and not just fall back into the same space to
You
where
should.
or go down that spiral. But
Very good. It's a very good tactic. I dig it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
all right, we'll see. We'll let some time go on, and you can ask me in a few months if I've made changes.
Yes. And Estepario, let's get you on the podcast, buddy.
Sounds good. All right, another fun one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for everything. You guys are the best.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Take care.